pat-downs, a search of carry-on luggage, full-body scanning, and explosive detection tests. We'll discuss whether the new airline security regulations amount to profiling. We are joined by Arsalan Iftikhar, an international human rights lawyer. If not racial profiling, what is this?
It would be ethnic profiling. I think this is this most recent announcement by the Obama administration is pretty much a haphazard attempt at trying to allay American citizens' concerns about the most recent Christmas Day terrorism plot. As you mentioned earlier, 14 countries named either as state sponsors of terrorism or countries of interest. People passing to and from these countries are into the United States are going to be subject to added scrutiny before flying into the United States.
Doesn't the United States, though, have a right to utilize any measures it deems appropriate to protect its country?
Of course, and we as American citizens, are as determined and as dedicated to the protection of our national security as anyone else. Sadly, what this does, though, is it essentially casts aspersions on millions of innocent Americans, and essentially does not focus on any criminal probable cause of wrongdoing, but rather, traveling to and from a country. A perfect example being Saudi Arabia. Millions of Muslims every year travel for the Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca every year. And so for millions of American Muslims who are traveling to the Hajj, that essentially means under these new guidelines that all of those millions of American Muslims who will be traveling back will be given these full-body pat-downs and additional scrutiny.
What about those, though, who say that this technique does work when it's implemented with other techniques, for example, watch lists, looking at stress signs, flight patterns, etc.?
Well, American law enforcement officials from the FBI down to local grassroots police officials on the ground have always said that racial profiling does not work, that it is an ineffective law enforcement technique. Even conservative Republican members of Congress, like former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, said that we should do behavioral profiling, which is actually targeting criminal suspicious behavior and not any sort of ethnic, religious, or nationality-based demographics. And so it's important from a law enforcement perspective to keep in mind that racial profiling has never worked in America. What
about nations, for instance, say like Israel, that make the argument that in fact they have the statistics and it does prove to be very effective?
What Israel does is behavioral profiling, and they do the best job of it in the world. They actually screen passengers, they ask them certain questions, they look at body language, things like that. And so they are essentially the best country in terms of behavioral profiling. Something interesting to keep in mind is that this situation after the Christmas Day plot essentially is again to basically allay fears to the American public that the Obama administration is serious in tackling terrorism.
So what should the U.S. be doing? If not employing these types of techniques, what should it be doing?
Well, again, it should be focusing on behavioral profiling. It should focus on giving more money and appropriating more funds to bomb-sniffing dogs, better enhanced metal detection screening centers, more security guards at airports. Let's not forget that the shoe bomber Richard Reed in December 2001 was a British national flying from Great Britain, and so under these guidelines he would never have been given any added scrutiny. And so to think that Al-Qaeda is somehow going to be deterred when they know that you're not looking for blonde-haired, blue-eyed people to go through airports, they're probably going to go out and recruit blonde-haired and blue-eyed people.
All right, Arsalan Iftikhar, we appreciate joining us.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Turning to Iraq now, the Prime Minister there has vowed to pursue charges in U.S. and Iraqi courts against the American security contractor formerly known as Blackwater. Last week, a U.S. judge dismissed charges against 5 former Blackwater guards for allegedly opening fire and killing 17 Iraqi civilians at a Baghdad intersection in 2007. Well, the ruling has provoked an outcry in Iraq. Tarek Bazley has more.
On duty at the Baghdad intersection, where in 2007 Blackwater guards are accused of having killed 17 innocent Iraqis. Ali Salman was directing traffic at the time and saw the incident as it unfolded.
There was no threat against them from the people who were here. I was controlling the traffic and I stopped all cars so they could pass. Yet they started shooting with no reason. It was a tragic moment. I will never forget it. These criminals should be punished.
Back in 2007, he showed camera crews the damage caused in the attack. Now, like many Iraqis, he's angry the US case against the 5 guards was dismissed, calling on the country's leaders not to abandon their pursuit of justice.
We have formed committees and filed a lawsuit against Blackwater security firm, both in America and Iraq. We won't abandon our right to punish this firm.
But an indemnity agreement between the US and the Iraqi government, in force at the time, makes bringing a case against Blackwater and its staff in Iraq difficult, if not impossible. Instead, the Iraqi government says it will support a US-based lawsuit brought by the victim.